unfortunately, and it's dying anyway, but we're going to repeal it, replace it. You're going to have great health care at a fraction of the cost, okay? Your jobs will come back under a Trump administration. Your jobs are full. Your incomes will go up under a Trump administration. Your taxes will go way down under a Trump administration, and Hillary Clinton is going to raise your taxes. She's going to raise your taxes. Your companies won't be leaving Ohio under a Trump administration. Right now, our economy isn't growing practically at all. Last quarter, it was only around 1% GDP. People have hardly ever heard of numbers like that. If in China it goes to 7 or 8%, it's like considered a national catastrophe. Here, we're 1%. Isn't everything wonderful? Everything's not wonderful. And if it was wonderful, we wouldn't have packed auditoriums no matter where we are. I'm going to get us to 4% growth, and maybe more, and create 25 million jobs for our country over the next 10 years. Many workers are earning less today than they were 18 years ago. They're working harder, they're working longer, but they're making less, and in some cases, they're working 2 and 3 jobs, but still taking home less money. It's ridiculous. They're getting older, they're working harder, and so am I. I'm working harder, I'm getting older. Believe me, I'm working harder. Companies like Carrier are firing their workers and moving to Mexico. Ford is moving all of their small car production to Mexico. When I'm president, if a company wants to fire their workers and leave for Mexico or other countries, then we will charge them a 35% tax when they want to ship their products back into the United States. And they won't leave. Those companies will not leave. If we do that, they will not leave. And you know what? If they do, that'll be fine. We'll make a lot of money. But they're not going to be there. And our politicians should have told you this years ago. You would have stopped this horrible onslaught of companies leaving. But 2 things. Either they're not very smart, or they are smart, but they're controlled by their donors and special interests. Okay? So either way, the people lose. Hillary Clinton has raised countless millions of dollars from big dollars who want to ship our jobs to other countries. You know that. You saw that last night. Remember, I said open border. She open border. I don't want open border. But she turned out she wanted open borders. Well, that WikiLeaks has done a job on her, hasn't it? And you take a look, she really has a hatred almost for Catholics. She's got a hatred for evangelicals. I mean, what they said about Catholics and evangelicals and so many other things. So many other things. And actually, the one I liked was John Podesta saying that, who's her campaign chairman, saying that Hillary Clinton has bad instincts. She's got bad instincts. I don't want somebody with bad instincts as our president. I'll tell you, if I were Hillary, I'd fire that guy. He said so many bad things. Well, Bill said about Obamacare, right? 2 weeks ago. He said, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. He was right. He suffered that evening, right? He suffered. But this is why I'm proposing a package of ethic reforms to make our government honest once again. It's time to drain the swamp of corruption in Washington, D.C.
Drain the swamp in Washington and
Those reforms include the following: a 5-year ban on executive branch and congressional officials lobbying the government after they leave government service. They're making a fortune. Not going to happen. That's why they make all these sweetheart deals. A lifetime ban on former executive branch officials lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. A ban on foreign lobbyists raising money for American elections. I don't want that. You don't want that. Nobody wants it. And you wonder why we make all these dumb deals and these horrible deals. Friends of mine come up, how could they have made such a stupid deal? They can't be. I said, they are actually smart. But you have to understand, this is the way the system works. Additionally, I'm going to push for a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on all members of Congress. Not only will we end government corruption, but we will end economic stagnation. My plan for the economy can be summed up in three very beautiful words: jobs, jobs, jobs. At the center of what will be a historic jobs plan will be fixing our terrible trade deals, and they are terrible. 47 million Americans are in poverty, and 45 million Americans are right now on food stamps. We have nearly 800 billion annual trade deficit in goods with the world, and the worst so-called recovery since the Great Depression. You know, we hear about a recovery. The worst since the Great Depression. Hard to believe. Ohio has lost 1 in 4 manufacturing jobs since NAFTA, and China's entrance into the World Trade Organization, 2 deals done by Bill and backed strongly by crooked Hillary. America has lost, listen to this, 70,000 factories since China joined the WTO. And by the way, try doing business over in China. Not easy, folks, not easy. We're living through the greatest jobs theft in the history of the world. They're stealing our jobs, they're stealing our companies, they're taking our money. We have drugs, we have debt, we have empty factories. That's going to end. That's going to end. So easy. The Trump administration is going to renegotiate NAFTA, the worst ever signed, probably the worst trade deal ever signed in history. Stand up to foreign cheating and currency manipulation, and stop the jobs from leaving our country. We're going to stop it. It won't be hard. In order to help bring our jobs back to Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, all across this great nation, I'm going to undertake a major reorganization of our bureaucracy, which we have to do. American trade policy is currently mismanaged by dozens of competing bureaucracies spread across the departments of agriculture, commerce, labor, state, treasury, all of these departments, so many departments. Get that mosquito out of here. Get a little nervous with mosquitoes nowadays, folks. But up here you haven't been hit yet, right? That's all we need is a nice mosquito bite. Thank you, I love you too. Mosquito bite right smack in the middle of the nose. No, we don't want it. In my administration, all trade policy making will be consolidated into one very important office. We're going to call it the American Desk, and it will be located inside the Department of Commerce. And I'll be checking with those people, because we're not going to lose our companies anymore. It's so complicated. So many different departments have to get involved, and by the time they get involved, they're gone. They've signed with all of these other countries. The mission of the American Desk will be to protect the economic interests of the American worker and the national interests of the United States, because they're hurting our national interests. We owe $20 trillion right now, doubled under Obama, and we haven't done anything. Our roads are bad, our airports are bad, our schools are bad, everything's bad. They're falling down. So we have all this debt, and we haven't started yet, because we have to fix the infrastructure for our country. It's going to be America first, believe me. As part of our plan to bring back our jobs, we're going to lower our business tax from 35% to 15%. We're also going to rebuild our inner cities. African Americans and Hispanics living in the inner cities are suffering. The violence is unbearable and unbelievable. You walk to the store with your child and you get shot. There's no education, there are no jobs, and there's practically no safety.
Nearly 3,500 people have been shot in Chicago since the beginning of the year, since January 1st. 3,500 people. That's worse than what you're reading about over in the Middle East in many cases. Homicides are up nearly 50% in Washington, D.C., and more than 60% in Baltimore. And it's getting worse. To the African American and Hispanic communities who are suffering, I say, what do you have to lose? Vote for Donald Trump. I'm going to fix the nation. I'm going to fix the nation. What do you have to lose? Seriously. I mean, the inner cities are so bad. They've been run so badly by Democrats for decades and decades and decades. Sometimes more than 100 years unbroken. And they get the votes, and they go on their way, and they don't do a thing. So I hope the African Americans, I hope the Hispanics, I hope they're going to vote for Trump. We're going to do something about it. Believe me, bigly.
We will be a rich nation once again. But to be a rich country, we must also be a safe country. And national security begins at the border. Speaking in secret to a foreign bank, Hillary Clinton said her dream is for totally open trade and open borders. You saw that last night when she tried to lie about it, right? She tried to lie about it. When she came up with something, she was talking about energy. She tried to lie about it. Just like she lied about other things, she tried to lie last night. Remember she said TPP, which by the way is a disaster. It will be a disaster for Ohio. They have no guards, no safeguards. They don't talk about currency manipulation in the agreement. It's thousands of pages long. It's a disaster for Ohio and Pennsylvania and any place that makes anything. It's bad. Hillary's plan includes an open border with the Middle East, meaning generations of radicalism and terrorism spreading and growing within our shores. Just last week, an Iraqi refugee approved for entry by Hillary Clinton's State Department pled guilty to joining ISIS. There are many of them. So let me state this as clearly as I can. If I'm elected President of the United States, I am going to keep radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our That'll end up being the great Trojan horse that they'll read about in 200 years, like you read about Trojan horse current. That will be, and we don't want to be a part of that history. We will also stop the crisis of illegal immigration. A Trump administration will secure and defend our borders. And yes, we will build the wall. We have the first ever endorsement from our ICE and Border Patrol officers. First time they've ever endorsed a candidate. Every year, countless American lives are lost to sanctuary cities. My opponent strongly supports sanctuary cities. I don't think she knows why. Like the ones that got Kate Steinle killed by a 5-time deported criminal illegal immigrant. If I'm elected president, I'm going to cut off federal funding to sanctuary cities. And we are going to make sure that our immigration authorities do the job that they're supposed to be doing. And these, in many cases, are great people that are not allowed to do the job. I can tell you, in the case of the Border Patrol and the ICE agency, these are great American people that, frankly, by backing me, they're going to be working much harder. They don't have to stand back. You know the expression? It's called stand back. People just walk right into our country. We are going to save American lives. Either we win this election, or we are going to lose this country. To sum up, here are some amazing things we're going to be doing for our country starting in 2017. We are going to have the biggest tax cut since Ronald Reagan. We will eliminate every unnecessary job-killing regulation which affects so many people. We will defend our religious liberty. We will provide school choice to every low-income child in America. And we are going to end Common Core education. We will totally support the men and women of law enforcement. We talked about this last night at the debate. We will save the Second Amendment, which right now is under siege. And I will appoint justices to the United States Supreme Court who will uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. You have 90 days to make every dream you ever dreamed for your children, for your family, for your country come true. Thank you. God bless you. Our campaign is powered by our love for this country and our love for our fellow citizens. And is there any better place to be than a Trump rally? Or any safer place, too? It's a campaign about rejecting the cynicism and elitism of our failed political establishment, which is doing great harm to everybody, us. I am going to fight for every citizen, of every background, from every stretch of this nation. I'm going to fight for every child living in poverty. I'm going to fight for every mom who lost her child to illegal immigration and drugs and gang violence. I'm going to fight for every community whose jobs and factories have been ripped out of our states, like Ohio and Pennsylvania and Florida and so many others. You take a look at New England, you take a look at what's happening.